All right, strap in everyone, because today we are going deep on writing really amazing economics essays.
Yeah, especially those essays you'll be writing for exams.
You guys have been asking for ways to really step up your essay game.
And we've got just the info you need.
I think so too. We've been digging through a bunch of sources,
We've got essay guides, exam tips,
examiner reports, and
some
econ.
insights we got from an experienced econ tutor.
And all these sources point to one, I think, really key idea.
Essays can make or break your econ grade.
Okay, wow. Up to 50% of your mark?
Yep.
So no pressure then.
Yeah, maybe a list.
But really, that makes this deep dive extra important, right?
Definitely.
I want to start with this economic study skills guide.
Okay.
I was really drawn to their pyramid of skills.
Yeah, I like that.
Really, highlights what makes a good essay.
Into a great essay.
Exactly.
It's a good visual.
Yeah, it is.
Because it shows how to get those top marks.
Right.
You have to climb that pyramid, and you start at the bottom with just basic knowledge, right?
Right.
And then you have to climb up
Up to the top.
through analysis,
And synthesis.
and at the very top is evaluation.
So we're not just listing facts.
No, not at all.
We're actually, making something,
Sophisticated, yeah?
right, something complex.
Like maybe taking some basic ingredients and turning it into this.
Beautiful
Yeah.
multi-layered dish. Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, and speaking of unlocking potential,
Right.
this essay writing for economics guide talks about command words.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's like they're giving us the cheat codes for the exam.
Yeah, kind of like that. They really are your guideposts.
Oh, I like that.
Like, let's say you see a command word, like explain.
Okay.
You got to use clear and concise language, and you're really focusing on making sure the examiner understands your thinking.
Yeah.
But then, if you see evaluate, that's when you got to put on your judge hat. You got to weigh the different sides of the arguments, pros and cons.
Yeah.
Maybe even bring in some real-world examples to really illustrate your points.
So getting these command words right is really essential.
Definitely.
But even with all the right ingredients and the recipe, you still need a plan.
Definitely. You still got to have a plan.
So this guide also has this whole section on quick plans
Right.
for those exam scenarios when every minute counts.
Yeah, where you're really under pressure.
Exactly. And our notes on timing suggest aiming for 3 minutes.
Per mark.
Per mark. Okay. But I think we should also add a little extra
Yeah, a little buffer.
for planning and proofreading.
Exactly.
So if you're looking at, say, a 10-mark essay,
Yeah.
we're talking 35 minutes.
Oh.
And for a 15-mark, 45.
Exactly.
So that extra time for planning and polishing, that's a game changer.
Yeah, absolutely.
But let's unpack this quick plan a bit more, shall we?
Yeah, let's do it.
This guide recommends the kind of classic structure: intro, body paragraphs, and conclusion.
Solid standard.
Yeah, pretty standard, right?
Yeah, I mean, the structure is standard, but it's the strategy that gets really interesting. That intro has got to be sharp and focused, got to use keywords from the question, and you got to show the examiner you're on point from the get-go.
Yeah.
No rambling stories.
Right.
And each body paragraph,
Yeah.
that needs to be like a mini essay.
Okay.
It needs to be well-developed, explained, and supported with evidence.
It's a quality over quantity.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not about filling up pages. It's
Yeah.
about really showing that deep understanding.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm really intrigued by this video.
Which one?
It's called How to Evaluate Perfectly in Economics.
Ooh, yeah, that's a good one.
Evaluation seems like the
secret sauce.
yes,
I
that
know.
takes it from good to
Stellar.
amazing. Exactly.
Yeah, and what's really cool about evaluation is that's where you actually show your understanding of economics.
Okay.
It's not just about stating facts, it's about adding your own your own reasoned judgment. You're weighing pros and cons, you're thinking about different time frames.
Short run versus long run.
Right.
Yeah.
Short run versus long run, and you're even questioning the assumptions. Yeah, questioning the assumptions underlying those economic models.
I like that. So it's taking your
Back to
analysis.
this level.
Yeah, and adding that extra layer of thinking that the examiners really want to see.
Exactly.
And this video mentions a few specific techniques like
Yeah, like considering who are the winners and losers.
global policy. Okay.
Right, or maybe what are some of the unintended consequences.
Okay, so you're not just explaining theory.
Right.
You're applying it to
Real world scenario.
real life, and that shows a deeper understanding. Right?
Yeah, right.
Now this is getting me excited.
Yeah, I can see it.
It's economics is coming alive.
It's not just in that textbook anymore.
Exactly. Speaking of which, this video
Mm-hmm.
called Paper 1 Part B Advice really stresses how important it is to use real-world examples, to actually back up your points.
Real-world examples, those are key, but there's a way to use them.
Strategically.
Yes, strategically, you've got to be specific.
Okay.
They have to be relevant to the question,
Uh-huh.
and they have to clearly show how that economic theory
Plays out?
yeah, plays out in real life.
So it's not just like,
Name dropping.
yeah, not just throwing in anything.
You got to choose those examples carefully
Okay.
to make your arguments
More impactful?
compelling
Yeah.
and really insightful.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So it's not about...
Name dropping.
Exactly. It's about choosing them.
Strategically,
Yeah.
to really make those points.
And this video also encouraged us to start building, like, a bank of relevant examples.
As you study.
Always study. So as you're learning about, let's say, trade policy, right? Keep your eyes peeled for, like, news articles, case studies, or even, like, historical examples that...
Bring those concepts to life.
Yeah, bring those concepts to life, right?
Exactly. It's going to make your essays stand out.
It shows you can actually apply this stuff.
Yeah, to the real world.
I'm already thinking about examples I can use.
That's great.
Okay, one final piece of the puzzle before we move on.
What is it?
Examiner reports.
Yes.
They can be a little intimidating.
Yeah, maybe a little.
I feel like they have a lot of good info in them.
They are a gold mine.
Okay, a gold mine.
Of information. Think of them as like behind-the-scenes access to
The examiner.
examiners' minds, yeah.
So by understanding what they want and what we should avoid.
You can really tailor your essays
to
meet those expectations.
That's a great idea. So what are some common mistakes that students make?
One of the most common is a lack of clear definitions.
Oh, okay.
It sounds basic, but...
Basic but important.
So many students just assume that the examiner knows exactly what they mean.
Yeah.
When they use certain econ terms.
So we're not making assumptions.
No assumptions, no assumptions.
We're defining everything clearly.
Define those key terms precisely, even if it feels basic.
Okay.
You really want to avoid any...
ambiguity.
And
show that you understand the concepts.
Exactly.
So no throwing around fancy terms.
Opportunity cost.
Yeah, or like...
elasticity.
Right, without actually explaining what they mean.
Exactly.
All right, I got it.
What else? What else? Oh, another common one is diagrams.
Diagrams, okay.
Yeah, but inaccurate or poorly labeled diagrams.
Yeah.
Diagrams are super powerful tools in econ.
I think so, too.
But only if they're done right.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine trying to bake a cake and not following the recipe.
Disaster.
Yeah, exactly. Total disaster.
So no more diagrams floating around without labels or explanations.
You got to make sure those diagrams are accurate, they're relevant to the question, and they're fully explained. A diagram without an explanation is like a painting without a title.
Oh, yeah.
You're missing all the context.
Yeah.
And don't forget, even if you're using a diagram, you still need to explain everything with good economic terms.
Got it.
So it's not just about knowing the content.
Right.
It's about how you present it.
Yeah.
You got to be clear, concise, and make sure it's well supported.
And actually meets what the examiners want to see.
Exactly.
What other good stuff can we get from these examiner reports?
Another thing examiners always point out is a lack of effective synthesis and evaluation.
Ah, yes. Remember that pyramid of skills?
Yes. You got to get to the top.
Those higher level skills?
That's what they want to see.
So it's not enough to just like state facts or arguments.
You got to you can analyze, synthesize, and evaluate.
Like a true economist.
Exactly.
Okay, but how do we effectively add that evaluation throughout our essays?
Well, that's what we're going to dig into in the next part of our deep dive.
Okay, can't wait.
We're going to go over specific techniques and strategies for making those essays shine.
I am already feeling so much more confident and prepared to tackle those essays.
That's great to hear.
Everyone stay tuned for part 2. We'll be back to unlock even more secrets to essay writing success.
See you then.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, so we've done some groundwork.
Yeah.
We've talked about command words and how to plan strategically.
And those examiner reports?
Yes, those examiner reports.
You were like gold?
A gold mine.
Yes.
Okay, so now let's talk about how to actually add in that evaluation to your essay.
Okay, yeah. This is where things get...
Interesting.
Yeah, really interesting.
Yeah, this is where it gets fun. I know evaluation's key,
Mm-hmm.
but sometimes I feel like it can sound...
Repetitive?
Yeah, a little repetitive.
Yeah.
One technique that can really boost your evaluation is thinking about those short-run versus long-run effects.
Oh,
okay. For example,
yeah,
like a government subsidy might boost production in the short run,
okay,
but then lead to all sorts of inefficiencies in the long run.
Oh.
Or market distortions.
Yeah.
So by considering both time frames,
you're getting that bigger picture.
You're showing a much more nuanced understanding.
I like that. What are some other techniques we can use?
Another good strategy is to question the assumptions.
Okay.
Those assumptions underlying the economic theory you're using.
Right. Okay.
Like a lot of those models assume
perfect competition.
Yeah, perfect competition
or rational behavior.
Right. And we know the real world
is messy.
It's not that neat and tidy.
Yeah.
So if you acknowledge those limitations and really explore how they might affect the outcomes, that shows a more sophisticated understanding.
So it's like you're saying this model's useful, but
let's not forget
limitations.
Yeah, and that type of critical thinking is what those examiners love.
Okay, so we're thinking about time frames, we're questioning assumptions. What other
evaluation power moves?
Yes.
Yeah.
Evaluation power moves do we have?
Absolutely. Remember those real-world examples we were talking about?
Yes, those are good.
Well, you can also use them for evaluation.
Ooh, interesting. How would we do that?
Okay, so let's say you're evaluating, I don't know, the effectiveness of a carbon tax.
Okay.
You could talk about countries where it's been implemented, like, really successfully.
Okay.
But then you could also talk about
the other
counterexamples,
where maybe it hasn't worked so well.
Yeah, where there've been all sorts of unintended consequences.
So we're using those real world examples to
weigh the pros and cons.
Yeah.
You're showing that you're looking at all sides.
Not just blindly advocating
I don't know.
for one or the other.
You're presenting that balanced view, and that's really what sets you apart.
I'm seeing now that evaluation's not just this box to tick off at the end.
No.
It's something that you got to weave throughout your essay.
It's the thread that ties it all together.
I like that.
Okay, now we're not just focusing on those big 10-mark essays.
Right.
We also got to zoom in on those shorter questions.
Okay, those 2 and 4 markers on paper 3.
Yeah, they may seem small, but they add up.
Yeah, they do. They do.
That IB Economics paper 3 written questions video has some really good advice on maximizing your score.
Yeah, it was all about the
details.
Details, yeah.
You got to pack those short answers.
Detail.
Detail.
To get those higher level marks. So for a 2-mark definition, you could give a 2-part definition, an example, or even an equation if it's relevant.
You got to squeeze it all in there.
Wow, that's a lot for 2 marks.
It is. But all those little details can make a big difference.
Especially because there's so many of those little questions.
Exactly.
Don't forget to highlight keywords in the question too.
Yeah, that's important.
So your answer is really focus.
And relevant.
Right. So you're basically sending a signal to the examiner.
Hey, I know what you're asking.
Exactly. And here's my, concise and detailed answer.
Perfect.
Now, what about those 4-mark questions, especially if they involve a diagram?
Okay, so the video recommends a really specific approach.
Okay.
Think of it like a 2-part harmony.
All right.
So first, you have your well-labeled, accurate diagram.
Okay.
That's worth 2 marks.
Got it.
Then you have your concise 1-paragraph analysis to explain it.
Okay.
And that's worth the other 2.
I like that breakdown. It makes it so much easier to actually see what I need to do.
It's like a roadmap.
Yes.
Okay, now when you're analyzing that diagram, you want to follow a simple framework.
Okay.
First, you reference the shift in the curve. Then you explain why it shifted.
Okay.
And then you link it back to the question to show how it answers the prompt.
So you're connecting the dots for the examiner.
Yeah, you're showing them that you can not only draw that diagram,
but also to interpret it.
And actually use it to support your answer.
Okay, those shorter questions are feeling a lot less scary now.
I'm glad to hear that.
Let's shift gears back to those essay questions on paper 2.
Okay.
The paper 2 4-mark questions exam technique video had some good advice.
Oh, yeah, for tackling those explanation questions.
Yes, so what did they say?
Well, those 4-mark questions are all about showing your in-depth knowledge.
Okay.
But you got to do it concisely.
Right, concise.
Aim for just one well-developed paragraph.
Okay.
To really provide that comprehensive explanation.
Then use keywords from the question.
Yes. To stay focused.
The video also said to, actually use any text or data they give you?
Yeah, use the extracts.
Extracts, yeah.
To support your answer.
So it's like you're building a case, right?
Yeah, you got to back up your claims.
With evidence.
Exactly.
Ooh, I like that, like an economic detective.
Yes, love that.
Gathering clues. Okay, now, those 10-mark essay questions.
Those are the big ones.
Yeah, those are the ones that feel, really serious.
Yeah, high stakes.
Yeah, high stakes, but luckily that paper 2 exam strategies video broke it down.
It really did. It told us exactly what the examiners want.
Yeah, how to get those top mark.
Exactly. It highlighted 5 key skills they assess.
Okay, hit me with number 1.
Number 1 is understanding those demands of the question.
Okay.
And addressing them directly.
Okay, so no more
Waffling.
Waffling, no going off on a tangent.
Nope, you got to be laser focused.
Okay.
Every point you make has to contribute to answering that question.
Okay, got it. What's number 2?
Number 2 is explaining the economic theory.
Clearly,
accurately. Yeah.
Right.
You got to show you understand those relevant concepts.
And apply them.
Apply them to the question.
Okay, so it's not enough to just
name drop the theories.
Okay, you got to actually explain them.
Like you're teaching it to someone who's never heard of it before.
I like that. Okay, number 3.
Number 3, using that economic terminology appropriately.
Right. No more like casual language.
No slang.
No slang.
No, you got to use the right terminology.
And make sure those definitions are clear.
Yes, and concise. And don't be afraid to define those key terms.
Okay.
Even if you think the examiner already knows.
Got it.
It shows precision.
Attention to detail.
Like you're fluent in economics.
Ooh, I like that. Okay, what about skill number 4?
Skill number 4, you guessed it.
Diagrams.
Diagrams.
Of course.
You got to include those relevant diagrams.
Okay, but
fully explain.
Explain, so no more just random diagrams?
Nope, they got to be integrated into those explanations.
Got it. And labeled.
Clearly labeled.
Okay.
And remember, even with a diagram, you still got to use those econ terms.
And written explanations.
Yes, to really show your understanding.
All right. And finally, number 5.
The big one.
This is the one that makes or breaks the essay.
Evaluation and synthesis.
Ooh.
This is where all those techniques we talked about earlier really come into play.
Okay. Yeah.
We're bringing all those ideas together. You're weighing the evidence.
And drawing those conclusions.
Yeah. Yes. And don't forget to use that information from the text and data extracts.
Well, right. To support your analysis.
That's valuation.
It's like we're weaving it all together.
You're creating this cohesive and really insightful argument.
This is making me realize how much actual thought goes into these essays.
It's like a puzzle.
Yeah.
Where everything has to fit together just right.
Okay, so we've talked about command words, planning, evaluation, and even those diagrams.
You covered a lot.
Yeah, we even dug into those examiner reports.
Behind the scenes.
But before we go to the last part of our deep dive, I want to go back to this idea of
thinking like an economist.
Yeah, it keeps coming up.
It's the foundation
of all of this.
Yeah, it's about going beyond just memorizing.
Right.
And really developing that understanding of how economics actually works.
And how it applies to, the real world.
Exactly. It's about seeing the world through that economic lens.
Yeah.
You're analyzing choices, incentives, trade-offs.
That interconnectedness. And this IB Economics visual guide highlights some key areas where you can really flex those econ muscles.
Ooh, yeah, like market failure,
government intervention,
economic growth,
trade policy,
economic development, all the good stuff.
And as we're going through these topics, we always need to remember
real-world examples.
Yes.
They bring it all to life.
Okay, one more piece of wisdom from that paper 1, part B advice video.
Okay, what is it?
Effective and balanced evaluation, that's how you get those top marks.
It's key. You got to show the examiner you understand.
Those arguments.
And counter-argue.
Yeah, acknowledge different perspectives.
Yeah, and consider the limitations of your analysis.
Okay.
Present a balanced view.
Right, so we're not just picking a side.
No.
And arguing for it blindly.
You're looking at those complexities and showing you can weigh that evidence.
And draw conclusions.
Exactly. And here's a simple but effective tip.
What's that?
Use the word however to signal that counter-argument.
Okay, like a little flag.
Like, hey, I'm looking at both sides.
That's a good one.
That kind of nuanced approach, that's what they want to see.
This is making me think about how evaluation isn't just important for essays.
Wow.
It's important for, life.
Yeah, being able to consider all sides, weigh the evidence.
Draw conclusions.
It's so important.
This deep dive has been really insightful.
I'm glad.
I feel like I have a whole new perspective on essay writing now.
I'm happy to hear that. And remember, the key is
practice.
Practice.
The more you write, the more confident you'll become.
It's true.
Well, thanks to this deep dive, I'm feeling ready to go.
That's great.
Everyone, stay tuned for part 3. We'll wrap up this essay writing adventure with even more tips and insights.
And help you conquer those econ exams.
With confidence. See you there.
See you there.
All right, we're back.
Part 3.
For the final part of our deep dive into econ essay writing.
The grand finale.
We've covered so much already.
I know, right?
But I always feel like there's, more to learn.
Oh, there's always more.
What else can we do to make our essays really, really stand out?
Okay, so one technique that people sometimes forget is thinking about stakeholders.
Stakeholders, yeah.
Yeah, like who benefits from a policy
Okay.
and who might be negatively impacted.
Right.
So if you add in that analysis,
it adds another layer.
Yeah, you're thinking about those real-world impacts.
So it's not just these like theoretical ideas.
Right. You're thinking about the people involved.
The actual people.
Exactly.
Okay, I like that. Any other strategies?
Sure. Another good one is to consider the potential for government failure.
Government failure.
Yeah, we talk a lot about market failure, but government interventions, they don't always work perfectly.
Oh, right.
Maybe there's some unintended consequences.
Okay.
Or the policy's just not implemented well.
Right.
So if you acknowledge that possibility...
Yeah, it's showing that, like...
You're thinking critically?
Yeah, about all the different sides.
Exactly. You're not just blindly supporting...
Okay, so we're thinking about stakeholders. We're thinking about government failure.
We've got those time frames, assumptions, real-world examples.
Like we're building this...
multifaceted argument.
Yeah, showing the examiner that we've thought about everything.
All the angles.
Okay, but it's not just about, adding in as much as possible. It still needs to flow nicely.
Yeah, gotta have that smooth flow.
A clear argument.
Cohesive, exactly.
So how do we make sure it's easy for the examiner to follow?
Think of your essay like a story.
A story, okay.
It needs a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Yeah.
So that intro, that sets the stage, the body paragraphs, they develop the plot.
Okay.
And that conclusion, it ties everything together.
And you need those smooth transitions.
It's like a good story.
To connect everything.
Exactly.
So we're using our planning skills to really build that strong structure.
A narrative structure.
Okay. Any other final tips to make our essays amazing?
One last thing. Don't be afraid to,
What?
show your passion for econ.
Oh, okay.
Let your enthusiasm come through in your writing.
Yeah.
Examiners can always tell when a student's really interested.
Oh, that's a good point.
And it can be contagious.
I like that. So it's not just about, checking off boxes.
Right. It's got to be genuine.
It's about using what we know.
And your insights.
To craft those arguments and show our understanding.
You got it.
I feel like I've learned so much from this deep dive.
Me too. It's been fun.
I have a whole new perspective now on writing these essays.
And remember, the key is to practice.
Practice makes perfect.
Exactly. The more you write, the better you'll get.
Well, I'm feeling ready to tackle those essays now.
Awesome.
And to everyone listening, I hope this has been helpful.
We had fun.
Remember those A+ essays? They are within your reach.
You got this.
Happy writing, everyone.